Great.
So again, this is Stuart Sinclair Week, Andrew Williams Jr., and we're right now discussing what we can do to assist and support the work and activity of this amazing organization that brings us all together in an opportunity to better mankind. And that's the Center for American Studies at Concord. Stuart, I'm going to bring up the website, and then I'm going to walk you through what my suggestions are, so I can show you rather than just tell you what it is, or at least I can illustrate that to our audience as we go along. So, for example,
Thank you.
certainly, for example, and I am very much impressed by the fact that the content here is very coherent and it's also very succinct. This actually provides a perfect opportunity, for example, Stuart, for us to consider each of these items to be represented by, let's say, a separate intern. Let's in our minds, let's think about our pool of interns, those young people that have come to us for guidance through our faculty and also through our facilities to improve their own learning and their own power. And I can think of no better way to do it than to get them involved behind the camera, so to speak, and behind the pen, so to speak, or behind the microphone, as well as in front of it. So again, for Orlando Bishop, the very last statement or answer that he gave, he was asked if he had to go to the island, what's the one thing he would take? And essentially he said, writing materials so that he could make a journal of his life to leave it behind him. I believe that that is something that we can demonstrate ourselves to our students, because they won't listen to what we say. They'll only pay attention to what we do. And I'm wearing now the hat of perhaps a faculty member. So in that role, I would encourage my students themselves immerse themselves in the offerings that are available. And just as simply as this one page here, for example, if you can imagine, Stuart, having your Haiti young man, for example. I understand. I don't know whether he speaks English and French or not, although most students do.
He does both.
Then I would suggest, in every case, to have this undertaken. I would really prefer by people with bilingual capability. And what that would do is allow them to, of course, recite or to repeat the information that's readily available on the screen and understandable to those of us that speak English. But more so, rather than just be a static recitation of content on the screen, I would suggest that we involve our artistically gifted students as well. And in every case, I would think that we should be looking ahead. The outcome that I envision is for this enterprise to have a result as what I would consider to be a season of content. And I say season in the respect of this being perhaps a docu-reality series of someone involving themselves with the center. In other words, I would love for a newcomer to come here with an open mind and then just express their understanding of what it is that they're experiencing here, and do so in a video format. And the idea would be that the words that already exist here, that's the script. So it doesn't require anything except, well, it does, of course, require an ability to read and to be able to articulate, the information in front of one. But again, this is why it's so important, I think, to have bilingual people involved with this. The ultimate outcome, Stuart, I would like to accomplish is that our content here could be presented in English and at least one other language by a bilingual student or intern in that particular language. And particularly since you've already mentioned, for example, your interest in the Native Americans as well as the people of African descent. And in my case, because I'm also, I have indigenous roots as well as Gullah Geechee roots, but we're here on what's called Turtle Island. And in my mind, that means all of North America, which means that necessarily, I think, we should begin with our Native Americans here. And of course, due to colonialism, those who are Spanish speaking. So, for example, the idea for us, Stuart, would be to have this to be presented. And also, of course, looking at it from a continental standpoint, Canada is, and Haiti, are both Francophone countries, right? So I think we should be thinking about our ability to impact not just different lingual groups within the geographical location where we are, but to look wider and consider this endeavor, Stuart, to be undertaken by each of the lingual groups that are designated, for example, Francophone countries. I would suggest that we undertake this with the understanding that our person that speaks French and English undertake this not just for Haiti or Canada, but for all the countries and peoples of the world that speak French. I would also suggest, because of course, Steiner is a German, that we undertake the responsibility of identifying the official languages of the European Union, for example, and the official languages of the African Union, for example, and then make a conscientious effort to demonstrate the fact that what we're doing has not just local, but global implications. And in that regard, what we're actually talking about here is what will be referred to as Sustainable Development Goal number 4, quality education. In that regard, again, there are trillions of dollars that are being designated for one or more of the Sustainable Development Goals. So ultimately, I believe we're going to have to treat this project as if it were an edutainment project. And the outcome I'm trying to suggest we have is that we produce public service announcements that are referring to and promoting and pointing people back to the website itself or specific pages or subsets of the website. But let's take this one step at a time. In social media right now, the most popular social media channels are TikTok or Instagram or YouTube or etc. But one commonality among them is something called hashtags. So I would suggest that we have an undertaking where we create hashtags for each of the areas that we have, not just on a page, but deep down to cover each subject. This is a major undertaking, Stuart, but I'm suggesting that we look at this as though our future depends upon it, and the legacy of this organization depends upon it, because it does. And so coming from that perspective, then it's important to get others involved with this conversation who have specific skill sets in media, specific skill sets in language, so that this collaboration is truly that, a reflection of the deep pool of resources that we already have available at our fingertips with the faculty and also with our supporters, but in particular with our alumni and our interns. So that's kind of a long-winded way, Stuart, of getting around to beginning to answer your question. But I'll stop there and pause for any questions or comments that you might have.
Just gratitude, Andrew. Just gratitude. Let me describe briefly how I work. I'm like a cook who's standing in front of an oven with about 100 burners and pots, some simmering, some boiling, some moderate. I'm not one, the way I work, which has its strengths and its weaknesses, who can say to somebody who comes to me, I'm sorry, I'm busy. You know, I'm sorry, I've got too much on my plate. I just can't do that. You know, it doesn't mean I get much sleep at night, but that's okay. I'm sure you know that as well. So there are many pots, and my task as I see it is to be open to what comes my way, not to second guess it unless the voice is very loud and clear. This is not coming from the right place, or this will not serve the work. Otherwise, I make myself available. What that means is that everything on the website, a lot of time and thought has gone into it, but it's at different degrees of cooking. Some are boiling. I mean, there are a number of books that we just simply haven't gotten up on the website that we've written. So, I mean, yeah, it's in different, the work is in different phases. So when someone like you comes along with your understanding and interest, if I'm discerning correctly, I believe, that's what makes it real. We don't staff positions. We are truly an uncommon school. Thoreau said it's time we had uncommon schools. It is time that villages were universities. We don't staff positions. We fund people who have a vision that they're connected with. So the way things arise is someone may, you know, approach us, or something may come from in our ranks, and we share it. If it makes sense, we share it with our Concordium, our circle of friends that I may have mentioned, that is about 5,000 people, from former prime ministers to janitors, and ad hoc tasks, working circles grow up around a project. And it could be for one day, it could be for, you know, a few years. A colleague of mine, a dear, very treasured colleague, had a young friend who graduated from college and had a love of Shakespeare. She grew up in a simple mill town, had nothing. And so she wanted to bring Shakespeare to people from such backgrounds, such simple backgrounds. And this colleague, Paul, asked me, can you help? And I said, well, let's see, I'll be glad to speak with her. So it turned out that we were able to connect with a mill town in New Hampshire, that I had some connections, and she could use our nonprofit umbrella to develop funds, and we connected her with some fine Shakespeare scholars who are among our work, and her dream came true. So that's how we work.
I see.
And that's a little bit going aside from your question or what you offered. What I'm simply saying is, you know, hallelujah, Andrew. If this is something you have the time and interest to help develop what you've described for the village university or for the center itself, that would be wonderful. And
well, this could actually be my thesis.
sorry?
This could actually be my thesis for the Concordium.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Yeah. And you might be able to attract some students who in a work study capacity could get a degree in a work study format.
Well, the other part of it is that there are quite a lot of students who themselves want to become teachers, and this will give them an opportunity to hone their skills and help to develop the curriculum again, but turning the camera on themselves as the camera's working over their shoulders, so that they're conscious of the unfolding of the reality as it exists, but produce content that can enable and engage others outside our immediate circle.
Wonderful. Wonderful, Andrew. Yeah. Well, I would say, as you have time, as the Spirit moves you, please feel free to make concrete suggestions. May I put you in, I assume you have WhatsApp, a WhatsApp phone number?
We
May
are
I,
connected. You and I are connected on WhatsApp already, yes.
yeah, I'm newer to that, so I'm not sure I have all the ins and outs, but may I connect you with Jean from Haiti?
Of
To
course, yes,
again, speak with him about this and,
certainly. But I would ask you first, I'm going to provide you with a recording of this. It's very short, but it was always helpful for people to know what we're talking about. And that's why it's adamant for me for us to document what we talk about so that anyone coming in can know where we got started. And then they can be able to contribute to the development from there.
wonderful, great, great. So Andrew, lastly, I will review and get back to you in about 15 minutes, your email.
Okay.
And my work as a founder of the Center for American Studies. The nice thing about the Center for American Studies is I've learned this over 45 years, there's no way we can serve ourselves. And I could go into that at greater length, but my task as the founder of the Center for American Studies is to be of service to colleagues who connect with it. So apart from the email, which I'll read and respond to, please let me know if there's any other way that I can be of any help. If you look at our link under initiatives for spiritually responsible investing, under initiatives, you'll see how we approach this issue of investing and fundraising. We basically turn the tables on our prospective donors.
Yes, I did. Yes, I do recall that. Yes,
We
I did
basically
believe that. Yes.
we basically research them and then we tell them they've been chosen to fund a certain project. But we add that the only criteria is that they have to appreciate the fact or be open to appreciate the fact that their money is not theirs in any but the most narrow, legalistic, and acquisitive sense of the word. That it's about our commonwealth. In other words, we cannot work with money that isn't consecrated.
Right.
So please, Andrew, what I'm saying is please consider me a resource.
Okay.
And if ever I can be of help, I'm certainly glad to do so.
Well, thank you so much, Stuart. I'm going to take this opportunity again to end this recording here and send it to you so you'll have it. And consider this to be my first investment, because time is the most irreplaceable value that we have. So I'll send this along to you, and then we can use this as the beginning stage for anyone you want to bring in. At least let them know who I am in context of this conversation, because my intent is for everyone that I get involved with to participate with this project.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful.
So I'm going to stop recording.